Okay, folks, it is 5:30 and we do have a quorum. So thank you very much for coming to today's special council meeting. If we could stand for acknowledgement of country, diversity, commitment and service acknowledgement. City of Victor Harbor acknowledges the Ramangeri and the Narrandjeri people, the traditional custodians of the land and waters where we live and work. We acknowledge their deep connection to country and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. This respect is extended to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. Somebody like to say the diversity? Thank you, Councillor Schiller.
The City of Victor Harbor is committed to diversity, equity and inclusion. We respect people of all ages, abilities, genders, sexualities, religions, belief, cultures and backgrounds.
Thank you. Service acknowledgement, Councillor Burns.
We recognise the brave individuals who have served and continue to serve our nation. We remember those who have lost their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice for service to our country.
Thank you. And would someone like to say the prayer? Schofield.
Almighty God, we ask you to bless this council and allow it to be an agent of change to the people of this city and beyond. Direct and prosper its deliberations to the honouring of your name and the welfare of the people whom it serves. Amen.
Please be seated. Before we get to the apologies and leave of absence, I'd like to say a big thank you very much to Deputy Mayor Schiller for acting for me over the last week when I was away unexpectedly. I hear you did a sterling job and it was probably one of the busiest weeks of the year for the Mayor in terms of Australia Day and the citizenship ceremonies and then a council meeting. So thank you very much for a stellar job during that period. It's appreciated. We do have a couple of apologies. That's Councillor McKenzie and Councillor Quinton, and Councillor Karemba is on leave. So we go to 4.1, which is the draft long-term financial plan. And the recommendation is that Council adopt the long-term financial plan as provided under separate cover. That has gone to the Audit Committee and has been endorsed by the Audit Committee. And you've got a copy of that was sent to you. You're moving that way, Councillor Mann. Thank you. And seconding that, Councillor Henderson. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Mann?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, no, just to, I guess, as it's stipulated in the report, I think the difficulty with these capital projects where it's not a capital asset that's staying with council, like a cloud IT system we've had with corporate systems, and then looking at this public-private partnership, the traditional ratios that we have to use in local government don't quite reflect the accuracy of it, but it's good to see in the adjusted net financial liabilities ratio that the deficit's only for the 2 years, and then looking at surpluses again, and then same with the adjusted net financials liability, looking at the borrowings and those levels coming right back down again as well. So I think it's good to see that in terms of the model we're looking at with the public-private partnership to deliver the rec centre, and I think it's the only way we would get results like that through this more innovative model that Council's been pursuing for some time.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Henderson, do you want to speak to this? No? Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Kemp.
Yes, I'll move an adjournment motion, if I may, Mayor Jenkins.
Do I have a seconder for that adjournment motion? Councillor Burns, all those in favour? That adjournment motion's lost. Does anybody else want to speak to this? I'll just check in terms of procedurally, Councillor Burns, if you moved an adjournment motion, whether you can, no, that's lost. You can speak to the original motion. Yep, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. The long-term financial plan is the single most important financial document we adopt each year. It sets the trajectory for our rates, our services, and our capacity to invest in the future. Tonight, we're being asked to adopt a long-term financial plan that still contains assumptions we know are no longer accurate, particularly in relation to the sports rec precinct. The long-term financial plan includes project-driven rate rises and operational assumptions that are based on a $4 million state government grant, stable operating costs and a balanced risk-sharing arrangement. We now know that it's unlikely that any grant money will be available before the election, and the developers proposing shifting operating losses in a situation that I think, to me, is concerning. And there are a number of concessions and so forth mentioned in the long-term financial plan. These changes fundamentally alter the financial profile of the project, yet the long-term financial plan has not been updated to reflect them. If we adopt the long-term financial plan as written, we risk unintentionally endorsing higher costs and long-term liabilities that elected members, I believe, have not been properly briefed on. We lock ourselves into a financial position that forces rate rises above CPI for years to come, where 39% of our community is welfare dependent. We also need to recognise the broader picture. We have other major projects on the horizon, the McKinley Street car park, the Art and Culture Centre, and the long-term opportunity of the marina and blue water economy. These projects all draw from the same limited rate base, and until we know the true cost of the sports precinct and its financial cost to the community, I believe it's financially irresponsible to commit an additional major capital works. I've got a series of amendments that I'd like to make to the long-term financial plan, and I'm happy to go through those or to submit them to council if it needs to be considered and reviewed for the next meeting. And the amendments I'm doing do not stop the progress. It simply ensures that we make decisions based on accurate, updated information and that we protect the financial sustainability of this community. They ensure that major projects proceed only when independent analysis confirms they are affordable. And we ensure that we prioritise strategic opportunities like the marina and the arts and centre that will actually grow our economy rather than burden it. So it's about transparency. It's about ensuring that the decisions we make tonight do not compromise the future of Victor Harbour. And I urge everyone, if you're happy for me to go through and discuss the amendments, to support them. If you
Time
wish
is up,
me,
Councillor Burns.
thank you.
Sorry? Oh, sorry, 30 seconds left.
So I'm happy to go through the amendments tonight, or if you wish, I can submit them in writing for the next council meeting. I'm fine either way.
The adjournment was lost.
Yep.
They are your amendments. If you want to put in, you can put in 2 amendments to the motion. My understanding is there are a few things that you said that may not necessarily be correct. One, the marina isn't even on the long-term financial plan and is just out for the boating strategy as a whole.
Yep,
it's just
correct.
out for public consultation. So that's not on the financial plan. You said that grant money will not be available before the election. We don't know that. I'm not sure where you
No, I
heard
didn't
that
say
from.
will be. I said it's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
correct.
not quite sure where you've heard that from.
Well, mainly because the council's in lockdown, other state governments in caretaker mode.
They go onto caretaker mode on the 21st of February. They're not in caretaker mode at the moment. And the long-term financial plan has been to the auditors twice for independent advice from the auditors. But if you'd like to put your amendments through,
Sure.
you need to say what they are and see if you've got a seconder and if people will agree to them.
Okay, fine.
So your first amendment?
First amendment is insert a new clause under key assumptions and financial strategy that council will only commit to major financial projects where independent financial and prudential analysis confirms the project is affordable and sustainable within the long-term financial plan. Whole of life costs, operating impacts and risk associations are fully disclosed and updated when material assumptions change, and the project does not require rate increases above CPI unless explicitly supported by the community through consultation.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favour? That's lost. Your second amendment?
where a major project's financial assumptions material change, including loss of grant funding, increased operating costs or altered commercial terms, the long-term financial plan must be updated prior to adoption to ensure elected members are not inversely endorsing outdated or inaccurate financial projections.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Is there any discussion on that amendment? All those in favour? That amendment is lost. I've just asked Karen Rokoczynski, Acting CEO, to check if you can do more than 2 amendments for the motion. My understanding is that you can only do 2. Yep. No, that's it. We move back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the original motion? Councillor Kemp, you have spoken on that, I think. Yep.
No, I just moved an adjournment.
You've moved an adjournment.
That's all. I still, and I have said this before in previous discussions on the long-term financial plan, that I can't believe that we will return to surplus by 28-29 after such large deficits. To me, that doesn't ring to me as a way of moving in that direction as to it will be achieved. So to me, again, the long-term financial plan from 28-29 on is really, I'm not quite sure how to put it, but basically I don't think it's achievable, and I don't see any information as to how it will be achieved in that respect. So I know it's only 3 years out, but surely we could be a bit more creative. Oh, not creative, that's not the right word. A bit more around more correct in our assumptions and not just maybe a little bit too well. To me, it seems like big deficits and then we're into surpluses very quickly, which puts us in a position like, we're doing a good job, but I don't believe it will happen. I believe we'll still be running in deficits through that period. So, yeah, I'm in 2 minds whether to support it or not. Thank you. Sorry I didn't make myself clear.
Thank you. I did send an email around a couple of days ago reminding people that if they do have any questions or if they are unsure of anything in the long-term financial plan or prudential report, to please reach out to the experts in the field and to talk to staff, and I'm sure you would have been able to speak to the independent members of the Audit and Risk Committee if you had any queries such as that. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Mann, do you want to close the debate, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I guess just to comment on a few of Councillor Byrne's comments that he made. I think, again, as the Mayor said, I think making an assumption that we won't receive grant funding on this project, I think we continually putting forward that case to the government as well. We've been waiting for a year and the wheels of state and federal government are very slow, but the project and the public-private partnership to deliver the community facility that we're trying to deliver fits every single criteria out there in terms of what the state and federal government are wanting to prioritise and encourage. I think some of the comments around not locking ourselves into rate rise with other major projects, and I guess the comment as well about how the marina and the arts and culture centre won't burden the community. I think one thing we've found with the last 10 years of the rec centre is that local government can't deliver community assets the same way we have been in the past. If we were to go and deliver the marina or the arts and culture the same way as it may have been done in the past, to do the designs, try and get some funding, and then the council build and construct and fund it all, it will burden the community and it will burden them much more, I would say, than a public-private partnership around the rec centre development. One of the main reasons we've gone down this path is because we've done many, many years of investigations, looking at a whole different ways to deliver the project, from design and construct to the traditional ways, to looking at other options. And this has been the way that out of all the different costs, all the different factors and the risks, this is one that allows council to deliver it and also try and do it in an affordable way for the community. To the amendment that was tried to put up about that we don't do rate rises above CPI unless we've engaged with the community via consultation. I think Councillor Burns, you'll find we've already done that and have done that for some time with this project. There's been that active consultation around the rate rises that would need to happen to deliver this project, and throughout that entire time this has stayed as the #1 priority for the community. So I think I appreciate where you're coming from with the long-term financial plan, and yeah, it's a document that we'll review every year. And it'll come back, and what's in there, what was in there when I started on council 7 years ago is very different across when you look at it. So it will come back. I know we've already got, when you're looking at the major projects at the back end of that, we had a motion which council's endorsed to when we do our next big review of the long-term financial plan, looking at what are some other capital projects that might be able to be dealt with in the short to medium term to help activate the arts and culture facility, in case that's something that can't be done in 10 years. So I think
30 seconds.
Thank you. So I think a lot of the concerns have been addressed and are being addressed. And I think in the context of it is an ongoing document that we're constantly reviewing, I think what it achieves and what it sets out in the current context of the project, I think I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you.
Division, please.
All those in favour, can you please stand? We have Councillor Mann, Councillor Schiller, Councillor Schofield and Councillor Henderson. And those against, Councillor Burns and Councillor Kemp. That is passed, carried. We now go to 4.2, which is the Regional Community Sport and Recreation Precinct Heads of Agreement extension. And the recommendation is that Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to execute a extension to the revised Heads of Agreement with a revised expiry date of 30th of April 2026. Does somebody want to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Schiller. And seconding that, please, Councillor Schofield. Thank you. Councillor Schiller, would you like to speak to that?
The reasoning for pushing this out again is logical. I think by the time we get to April 30th, we definitely will be at the pointy end where we will need to come to the crunch and make our decision. So I'm happy to push it forward into the future, but the next time around it'll probably be time to wrap it all up. So I'm supportive of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a long think about this, and I also understood similar thoughts to Councillor Schiller in that is it likely that we may get some government funding before the end of the next extension? And if it wasn't for the state election, I'd probably say, look, it's worth trying again. But again, I don't believe that it's going to be likely that we're going to get the funding, and I believe that we'll get to that time and we will find that whilst it's desired, we may not have the critical funding to proceed with this project. So I know I've mentioned it previously that constantly extending it, but where there's hope or an opportunity is I can't see that we're going to get the funding in the time frame. I'd wish we did, but I'm not sure we're going to, so I won't be voting for it.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Kemp.
Yes, this is the 7th time we're extending. I'm just wondering how many more times we're going to be extending. And the reasons why are we extending all the time? Because things are not happening how they should be. To me, that causes issues, or there are issues around the whole process. To me, as we extend it out more and more, it's getting more costly to build. and will the developer come back and want more money off us because, his costs have gone up, quite a bit because of the continual extensions. I still believe it's not viable. I don't believe the community can afford it, and especially around the facts that, we're putting a lot of money and effort into something that we will never own, and I believe we won't never own. And I think that there's a lot of community members out there who support it, but there's a lot out there who don't support it. So I'm not supporting another heads of agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Mann.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I think there's probably, I know each time we have the heads of agreement come up, we have similar discussion around it. And I think it's important for the context of a number of times council have looked to extend it a longer term, but then it's this chamber that said, no, we want to do shorter reviews. So obviously when we say that, it's going to come back to the council more, okay? Because a project of this magnitude takes time. And I think part of that is we don't want to infer that, it's all the developer that's taking this time. Probably a large portion of that is attributed to this chamber as well, because we wanted to pursue what other options would look like and get them costed and investigated. We wanted to look at, okay, what would it look like if the operating model was completely with council, and we ran that. And that was a significant exercise, which took a lot of time and a lot of work from consultants and looking at that. Yes, that's extended out this whole process, but in some ways it's been beneficial because we've been able to then compare that against this other operating model of going through with the proponent and look at that public-private partnership, because some of those initial costings, if council was to run it ourselves, it was going to be an extra 1.2 million a year. And so we've got, I think, with the rec centre, when you look at its 10-year history, I feel like there's very few stones that we haven't looked under. And I think that's where our due diligence has come from. And yes, over that time, the costs have gone up. But in some ways, if we had delivered this 5 years ago and built the $40 million one when we got the nice shiny plan back, council would not be able to afford that at the moment, because we would be depreciating that. The depreciation on that would be killing our operating budget. But because we didn't say yes to that, even though costs have gone up double for delivering a rec centre, this kind of model, I think, will protect the community and reduce that ongoing cost that a lot of councils around Australia are struggling with because of the significant increase in the capital expenditure of major projects such as the rec centre. And additionally, yes, it's been a bit of us, it's been a bit of negotiating with stakeholders, Accord, Belgravia, but it's also been the state government. Okay, we've been waiting for the revocation, we've been waiting for grant funding, we're waiting for the federal government for funding, and yes, how we're proceeding is, okay, we need that funding to come through and fill that gap. But we have to be mindful as well of, okay, all this time, 10 years worth of investigations, all of the time we've spent in looking at this model, and we may get to April and it might be, okay, what are we short in the funding? And I guess at that point, we'll have to make a decision of, okay, are we just going to abandon it all and say, okay, sorry, community, no rec centre, because we've looked under all the stones, or we can say, okay, we might have to fill that gap. That's going to be a question later down the stage, but I hope, and we're continually advocating to state and federal government to bring that money and provide that grant to deliver such an incredible facility for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Schiller, do you want to close the debate?
Just to comment that there's been so many parties involved in this project, and it is a very complicated project, and we are getting very, very close to making some fairly substantial decisions. So this is well worth hanging in there for that extension.
Thank you. That closes the debate. I'll now put the recommendation to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. And you want a division?
Yes, please.
Those in favour, please stand. Councillor Mann, Councillor Schiller, Councillor Schofield and Councillor Henderson. And those against, Councillor Burns and Councillor Kemp. That motion has been carried. 5.1, the first recommendation is that we go into confidence because the information to be received, discussed or considered is commercial information of a confidential nature, the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to prejudice the commercial position of the corporation who supplied the information, and the corporation's plans and business strategies will be exposed. In addition, the disclosure of this information would be on balance contrary to the public interest. Would someone like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Thank you, Councillor Schofield, seconding that. Anybody want to talk to it?
Sorry, a question quickly. Is the information different from what's been discussed in public discussions about the operating model previously? Is there something tonight that is different? I couldn't
Yes,
see anything,
the
but there may be.
prudential, the prudential report went through the confidential audit and risk committee, and so it stays in confidence until we
I
come out.
understand
And
that, but is that being-
prudential report has been in confidence.
So is that being referred to in the discussion?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Any further discussion? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Andrew.